So the equation usually goes redneck racist in most people's mind. But I know some guys who proudly call themselves rednecks, and they're some of my best friends in the world. Yeah. But they also have a keen understanding of how they're suffering and why they're suffering. It's just that people don't hold those conversations, so we don't understand that we're fighting the same thing.
When we talk about revolution, the problem is that we often fall into the trap of invoking the concept as just an abstraction, an historical phenomena, or mantra during a protest. What goes missing in this conversation is that 57 years ago, we actually got very close to a bona fide revolution in the U.S. when Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale launched the Black Panther Party.
The police in our community couldn't possibly be there to protect our property because we own no property. They couldn't possibly be there to see that we received the due process of law for the simple reason that the police themselves deny us the due process of law.
But it wasn't just because the Panthers laid the groundwork for an alternative system to our abusive capitalist one, through the breakfast program, free healthcare, and community self-defense to replace policing. They also cracked the mold of previous liberation movements by embracing one of the most revolutionary concepts in human history, transcendent solidarity.
I think that the revolutionary students played a great part in saving America. If it were not for the white students, the Black Panther Party would react to the racism in the country and therefore respond with racism. White students have been very interested in the past of the foreign policy of the United States. They're demanding that the United States withdraw from Vietnam, stop brutalizing the Vietnamese people, and we feel that the white students should relate and pay more attention to the colonized situation here of the blacks first, because after all, this is home.
When Fred Hampton first met with the Young Patriots to form the Rainbow Coalition, it shattered the fabric of the empire's ultimate weapon against the working class, divide et impera. The Young Patriots were a group of poor white Southern migrants living in Chicago's uptown neighborhood who organized around class oppression, police brutality, and poverty, ironically often wearing the Confederate flag patches to symbolize their roots. But that didn't stop Fred.
Of Southern white people, and I've heard policemen, pardon me ladies, say, throw them up against the wall and say, you fucking hillbillies, what you got on you, and this kind of thing. And all I want to say is, when you talk about tolerance, we're not tolerating this, we're angry. 100 years ago, this flag which I wear on my cap represents the Confederate States of America. We was beat down. And we beat down people for 100 years. And we know what it's like to beat down people. And we beat down people hard. We all getting ourselves together. We're angry about it because we're all beaten down today. And we're going to be out on the streets and we'll be helping you if you want our help. And it's not the matter we communists, we this or that and the other. We're just folks who are trying to get things straight in our community. Is that clear?
The Rainbow Coalition, which is a coalition between the Panther Party, the Patriot Party, and the Young Lords Organization. And this organization expresses solidarity because we recognize this is a class struggle. And we recognize the class we come from, the oppressed people, has no color. And again, this is concerning why the Hogan and Nixon, right from the White House down, are trying to wipe out the Patriot Party, the same way they're trying to wipe out the Panthers and the Young Lords, because we do have this solidarity with the oppressed people.
Now today, in the current atmosphere of virtue signaling and aesthetics, disaffected Americans on the right and the left would still scoff at the idea of such a meeting, much less such an alliance.
They're backing us up so they get off our backs.
That's right, they don't want us to build ourselves up like the Panthers did. Because they're afraid if people's going to keep building themselves up, that we're all going to get together and we're going to get done what we want done.
These 200 buttons, the Panthers will start wearing them now. See?
They're going to try to prevent this every way they can by acting like our friends. That pig almost had me convinced tonight, man. He did. I started even believing this shit.
See, that's a job.
I know that.
That was a job.
Liberal and conservative mainstream media has mastered the art of either fear-mongering or stoking identity wars to such an extent that both sides are now left with just two flavors of tyranny, Republican or Democrat. Both, of course, work for the same masters, just different sales reps. Now, the only way out of this enslavement, and the only way through the divide and conquer bullshit, is to go full Fred Hampton on this motherfucker. Black people and rednecks. While most Americans see them as polar opposite demographics, they are in fact deeply connected in American history as the two first groups to execute an armed rebellion against corporate America in the Blair Mountain Revolt. In fact, that's where the word redneck comes from, but that's another story. Why am I focusing on these two groups in this episode? Well, because together they represent the largest population of disenfranchised Americans, and their unity is pivotal to a successful revolution against the ruling class.
This is poor people's power. And that's what this little hand-painted button's all about that we've been passing around to people. People that want to take over and have a government for themselves, that they'll be treated right. That's what it's all about. I want to introduce a man that come over tonight from another part of town, but he's fighting for some of the same causes we're fighting for, and start the meeting off. So I'm going to introduce you to Bob Lee here and let him rap a little while. Bob.
I'm a Black Panther. I'm a section leader of the Black Panther. This is Sister Ruby. Panthers are here. Are here. Panthers are here. For uptown.
Okay.
For anyone who lives in uptown. With brown, green, yellow, purple, or pink. But I'm saying Panthers are here, and you'll have to tell us what we can do and what we can do together. We come here with our hearts open. You can't supervise us where we can be of help to you.
One thing we're going to have to do is put our heads together and figure out where we can help uptown, help the people in uptown.
Right.
And the thing is that I want everybody who's got any questions at all to speak them up and say them now.
The question is, will the liberals stop that from happening? In order to analyze this question, back in November I sat down with my boss, the Minister of Defense for the Black Panther Party and the Panther Party, even though he wouldn't like it if I called him my boss. He prefers the word comrade.
When the Lord comes back, ain't gonna be no cops. You can cook your own, you can smoke your crops. All the boys gonna wear the pretty things. When the Lord comes back, you gotta prove a thing.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Pleasure to meet you. Absolutely.
Tell me, what's the context of this human being in front of me?
I'm Bunchy Carter, National Minister of Defense of the Black Panther Party, and National Minister of Defense of the Panther Party. Yeah.
What inspired you?
Well, my dad was a Panther, so it started there. Kind of been steeped in Panther ideology most of my life.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, as a teen, you rebel against that and go do whatever you're going to do. So I went, did a stretch, came home, kind of had a different mind, you know what I'm saying? And kind of got involved with some different organizations, but it's always been Panther ideology for me. So anything that was close to that, I would kind of align myself with. And then a lot of those things kind of fell apart, or they just didn't quite meet the level of revolutionary action that I wanted to be involved in. So I left, moved to Washington. In 2020, when George Floyd and all of that happened and all of the protests were going on, it got really active in the streets. And I kind of had told myself I was done, you know, but when I saw that happening, you know, Overnight X, who's also one of our members, actually came to me and said, hey man, I think we should reinvigorate the Black Panther Party. I was like, okay, let's do it. So ever since October, strangely, of 2020, we've been Panthers in Washington State. Yeah.
You mentioned that previous iterations of the Black Panther Party did not meet up to your expectations or the legacy. Can you go into that?
It's well, a lot of the organizations I joined weren't called Black Panther Party. They kind of modeled themselves after the Black Panther Party, but it just didn't go all the way. You know, one of the organizations, and I won't name the organizations because I don't want to give them a bad name, because I mean they still do good work in the community, but you know, they didn't allow the members to carry firearms, and I was like, I don't like that. You know, in another organization, they had the firearms, but the ideology was really more nationalist than actually a revolutionary ideology. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, it's too boxed in. You know what I'm saying? There's no room for the expansive growth that's going to be necessary for revolution to happen in America. And when you cut off all of the other factions, when you talk about only dealing with black people, you're dealing with a very small part of the population, even of the entire country. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, well, if you're really talking about revolution, you can't just be talking about that because there's not enough of us to win. And so that kind of led me out of that organization. And I just kind of was like, okay, I'm just out for now, you know, unless I find something that really speaks to me, I'm done. I'll stand up when I need to stand up. But other than that, the organization thing just ain't for me. But then, here we go.
These other iterations you speak of, there's a lack of cross-sectionality too, where it seemed...
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one of them, the first one, without the firearms was my biggest problem with that. Because I was like, we're out here literally going face to face with the police. And if we're going to do that and we know what their tendencies are, I would prefer to be protected, you know? So, don't make me a sitting duck. I'm not going to die for the cause because I didn't have a way to defend myself. If I die for the cause, it's going to be because I died fighting. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that was it.
One of the most powerful points of the Black Panther Party and its old legacy was the fact that they were able to swallow their ego on so many fronts to have that cross-cultural solidarity. Absolutely. Like, for example, with the Young Patriots and the Young Lords.
Rainbow Coalition.
The Rainbow Coalition. Do you feel like in that time frame, since the Rainbow Coalition fell apart up until like now, that there's been this stubbornness to go back to that attitude of reaching out to people of different backgrounds?
Absolutely. I think it was a conscious effort when they saw that formulating to go back to the point of working harder to separate people. So when you have poor Puerto Ricans, poor white people, poor black people, poor natives, and they all have been given reasons to look at each other with the side eye, so to speak, it makes it hard to cross those bridges to say, hey, we should work together because we have a common enemy. People don't view it as a common enemy because the system does a very good job of barricading themselves behind the wall and making you think that the people who are suffering right alongside you are your enemies. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So with that, I think there was a long time where there was that's when you got the rise of some of these, a lot of these white supremacy organizations, a lot of these black nationalist organizations that I just don't understand how they think. But I mean, I get it because our first tenet is to protect and educate and serve the black community. But then the greater obligation as a Panther is the liberation of all oppressed people, not just black people. So, I think it requires a greater degree of study, you know what I'm saying, to reach that degree of understanding. And some people aren't willing to do the work to get there, to shake their own biases or whatever they may have instilled in them. I went through a part of my life where I didn't really deal with white people, you know what I'm saying, because I didn't trust them. I was like, nah. But the trust was broken not by the people that I was seeing every day, but by the people who were running the country. Mm-hmm. But I was equating it all together. Yeah. So once like I said, I did a little time and had an opportunity to think, you know what I'm saying?
So you yourself had to conquer that perception that the government likes to push on people of color to convince them that, hey, we're oppressing you, therefore you need to look at all white people as the ones oppressing you.
Absolutely.
So I never thought of that angle. Yeah, so by the government being so oppressive and being so blatantly white supremacist, in some ways they're creating trauma in the minds of black people to the point where they don't want to trust any white people and therefore preventing that solidarity.
Well, if you think about it, they create trauma not just for black people, any quote unquote minority group. Mm-hmm. That is suffering under this oppression is formulates that same kind of concept in their brain. But at a point, it also turns to everyone else. Because if you, I hate to even harp on this, but it's true. Media representation of black people from America around the world has never been good. So when we go other places, people look at us weird. It's kind of like, you know, so when you instill that in people and don't allow them the opportunity to embrace their humanity, you know what I'm saying, and find the humanity in other people, you strip their ability to be able to overcome those barriers. I think, yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about these redneck patriots out there. I think white and black there's something very symbolic about these two groups.
Absolutely.
They represent the extremes. Like, I would say black people being the most historically oppressed groups next to the Native Americans in this country, and then white people being, you know, the top oppressors. So it represents this dichotomy. And do you feel that bridging that gap between the ones who are at the lower rungs of white society and the lower rungs of black society, once that bridge is made, how big of a change is that going to make for not just this country, but the whole world?
Well, we're already starting to see the fruits of that just with the formation of the Panther Party. With us working in tandem with the Panther Party, people get an opportunity to see it in action.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, if you see him, if you see him somewhere, you see me. If you see me somewhere, you see, you know what I'm saying? And if you see any 3 Black Panthers, you're probably gonna see 3 members of the Panther Party. We ride in tandem like that in order to show people that the recipe for this doesn't lay in one group. You know what I'm saying? It lays in us being able to overcome all of that. So I think what that does for the country when they see it, in the places where you have, like say in the Midwest is looked at as, oh, it's super white out there and they're all on farms and da-da-da-da. Yeah, but those people are suffering too. You know what I'm saying? And if you can, at the point where you allow, people to learn more about you, I think a big part of our problem is we also hide behind the same stereotypes that we fight against. We don't talk to each other. We don't get to know our neighbors. Especially if you live in a multicultural neighborhood, getting to know the people who live close to you is ultra important. Building community is not just about living next to somebody. It's about what you know about them. It's about what they know about you and how much you're willing to help each other.
Yeah.
So I think that in and of itself would be the result if that mentality became more pervasive. Absolutely. Yeah.
How valuable do you see your rednecks in this struggle?
Very.
Yeah, why?
Very. Because they represent a section of society that often gets overlooked as well. You know what I'm saying? We normally only think of a redneck when you see one who has a big Confederate flag on his truck or something, and you automatically assume this person's a racist. So the equation usually goes redneck, racist in most people's mind. But I know some guys who proudly call themselves rednecks, and they're some of my best friends in the world. Yeah. But they also have a keen understanding of how they're suffering and why they're suffering. It's just that people don't hold those conversations, so we don't understand that we're fighting the same thing. So yeah, they're super important because they're going to bring in a whole different type of quote unquote army into the battle. You know what I'm saying? And they go out shooting all the time. They they live and die with that, so they're ready. Yeah, so I think that's super important. Absolutely.
And how has white liberalism served as, I'm trying to think of a better term besides cock blocker, but
I mean, that's a perfect term though. Yeah, absolutely.
How have they served as this barrier to keep these two groups separated? Your rednecks, and black liberation.
Oh, that's easy because liberals will do things like, oh, it's so sad that happened. But we could do this. With a liberal, it's always a reform step, but it's never a reform step that's wholly inclusive. So it's like, we'll do this one thing for black people, but now you got these people mad at black people. Oh, we'll do this for y'all, but now you got these people mad at these people. And it's all a result of, to me, liberalism is a code word for incomplete conclusions. You know what I'm saying? They give so-called solutions to problems
false
that
choices.
Don't really solve them. Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve them. It puts a Band-Aid on a 12-gauge gunshot wound. And for a moment, it feels better.
Yeah.
Because you don't see the blood. You know what I'm saying? But as soon as the blood starts leaking and then the pain comes back, then you realize that this didn't fix the problem.
Yeah.
So I think that liberalism across the board serves us poorly in that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the good news about liberalism is rednecks don't like him either.
Yes.
So like that alone is common ground because I grew up in redneck circles. I still am with my wife's family, and I associate with that circle, and I'm noticing some commonalities that I don't feel like the both sides know. That like if I hang out with black people or in revolutionaries for other groups like pro-Palestinian movement, and I hang out with rednecks, I'm noticing, I'm hearing some common themes that are spoken of. And one of them is that this, like you said, this false illusion that liberals are here to save the day. And I'm like, that if only these two groups knew that they're talking the same thing,
yes,
they could just share in some, just vent about it. I feel like now that liberalism is under the microscope now, we're starting to dissect and see all these elements and how it was used as a tool of this empire to keep us separated. So what message would you say you would have for the rednecks out there who have been, I guess, targeted by liberal media? Because also one thing about the liberals that they do is, aside from giving false choices, is they also like to do this fear mongering to black people. Like, you see those rednecks over there? They're coming to get you. So you need me. You need me. because look, don't worry, I'll protect you from them. You know, just trust in me, and I'll keep you away from these dirty rednecks who want to kill you and hang you from a tree and shit.
Right.
So, like, how can we just like smash that wall down? And as far as a message to, and vice versa, by the way, because the conservative media will do the same thing to rednecks. They'll say, see these black people, they just want to rob you, they hate you because you're white, and they want to take everything you have.
Absolutely.
Like, what do you have to speak on that, about this?
I think the biggest thing would be this. Do you ever, my first question to start the conversation would simply be, do you ever wake up and ask yourself, why am I here and what am I doing? Because if you ask yourself that question, why am I here? You can't really answer that. That's a question that's not for us to answer. You know what I'm saying? Only time and our evolution as humans will tell us why we were here. You won't know that till it's over.
Yeah.
But what are we doing is a much bigger question. It starts, a lot of it starts with education and just understanding where each other are coming from. So we have to have that simple conversation. Hey, you guys have trouble with the police too, huh? Yeah, so do we, you know? When you start to find that common ground. Have you ever seen the movie Judas and the Black Messiah?
I did.
Okay. So when Fred walked into the Young Patriots, Fred and the Panthers walked into the Young Patriots meeting, it was made very simple. You know what I'm saying? The same fire is burning down both of our houses. But the question is, are you gonna just get water to try to put out your fire? You know what I'm saying? Basically, I mean, in a nutshell, and we just get water to put out our fire, but if we work together, we can put out all the fire. You know what I'm saying? And nobody's house burns. I think sometimes we don't realize we're dancing in the same fire. And that in and of itself, I think will begin to solve the problem. You have to open doors to people and allow them to come inside. Case in point, say somebody knocks on your door, right? And there's somebody that you kind of know, but you don't really know. They knock on the door and you stand at the door talking to them out the door like this. How welcome do you think that person feels?
Not welcome.
Not welcome, exactly. So we've spent an eternity talking through the door to each other. It's time to open the door and let people in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's nothing that rednecks are suffering that we're not suffering, and vice versa. The only thing that makes it different on the side of quote unquote BIPOC or minority communities is the racism aspect of it. Yeah. That's the only thing that makes it different. Other than that, they can't use that on the rednecks. You know what I'm saying? They can use it in a different way. Like you said, the field marketing is how they use it on them.
Yeah.
Oh man, watch the black people. Oh, watch the Asians. Oh, watch the Puerto Ricans. Watch the Mexicans too. You gotta watch all of them. So essentially what that creates is a funnel for creating new white supremacists.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. So if we can find a way to break the funnel through educating each other, I think we win.
Speaking of white supremacy, the way I see white supremacy is it's a predatory tool by the capitalist elites. They don't honestly give a shit about the supremacy of poor whites, obviously. They just want to give them a sense of purpose for the sake of furthering their capitalist agenda, right? So now, luckily, with things like Epstein coming out, a lot of rednecks are aware, like, whoa, these elites they're all corrupt. Like, it's becoming more awakening. That common ground, how do you see that common ground playing out between black people and rednecks when it comes to the elites, the elite class?
I think once we realize white supremacy is not white supremacy so much as it is elite white supremacy, it changes the equation.
Elite white supremacy.
That's what I like to call it. Yeah, because if you just call it white supremacy, you're making the mistaken assumption that white people at the bottom rungs of society are also the same, want the same thing. You know what I'm saying? When in all actuality, they just want to survive. Most of us are in survival mode. You know what I'm saying? And because we're in survival mode, what ends up occurring out of that is we find ways to go to war with each other. All they're doing by virtue of what you're speaking on in regards to white supremacy and how they use it against the rednecks is they're creating a bigger brand for their frontline army. They have the police, which is obviously their front line. But now you have Proud Boys and 1%ers and all this other shit. Other stuff, my apologies. No,
you can suggest it.
Okay. And so then if you can recruit the rednecks, the people who you may see them walk down the street and not think twice about them being a threat. You know what I'm saying? You might just be, oh, look at this redneck. But in all actuality, he's heavily armed and he's ready to go to war because he's been programmed. You know what I'm saying? That is dangerous. That's extremely dangerous. So it's again, the only way that this is going to be fixed, there's no blanket statement that I could say to fix it. There's no blanket statement that anyone could make to fix it. It's going to have to come down to people actually saying, hey, there's this common thing we have. Let's meet here. We'll start there. You know what I'm saying? And if we start there, we can build out from that point.
Yeah.
But as Minister of Defense, I talk about the police all the time.
Yeah.
Every single person I know has a problem with the police.
Yeah.
Every single person that I know personally. And I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I can almost go to any city in America and say, hey, we're having a rally Friday, or we're having a meeting at this place Friday about police brutality. And you're going to get a good number of people in the room, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a good cross section of different people to come into that room, because police brutality is not just a black problem. You know what I'm saying? So,
how many white people have you met that have experienced brutality under the police? Like, it's
the percentage is much lower as far as the brutality part, as far as like the physical brutality.
Yeah.
But as far as the mistreatment and, you know, basically ignoring people's rights, and I see no shortage of instances where the person that the police officer is pulling over knows the law better than they do, and it frustrates them to no end, to the point that they end up doing something stupid. I have a couple of white friends who've been locked up for things they didn't do, simply because they were in the area and fit the description. And I was like, man, now you know how it feels to be black. That's crazy. But yeah, so I mean, I think that the number's significantly smaller, but it still happens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just that sometimes it doesn't go to the point of murder or even getting beat up.
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as locking you away, not reading your rights, being a little rough with the handcuffing and throwing you in the car. All of those things are possible. So, I mean, I think if I took 10 white people and lined them up, I'd say probably 4 of them have had at least 4 to 5 of them have had a bad experience with the police.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to go back to economic conditions. So right now, everybody in the lower class is just, we're getting squeezed really hard with this economy, especially the aggression that these big corporations are having on the American people. How is solidarity between rednecks and black people a very real thing that can help like mitigate that and help us bring us into economic prosperity if we just unite? And how could that happen?
Oh, that's easy, man. We got both sides of the hustle if we do that. You know what I'm saying? Especially black people that have been living in cities, inner cities, you know, mid-major cities. The entrepreneurial spirit has been kind of ran into us in many different ways, whether it's starting a small business, selling drugs, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And not that I am championing selling drugs. I'm just saying that the spirit is there. So if you take that, and then the rednecks have a whole different thing. They know how to, a lot of them know how to fix things. They know how to grow things. They know how to build things. You know what I'm saying? Not that you don't have that on both sides, both things on both sides, but the majority of people, if you put that together, you create a whole block of people who can stand against what's presently in place in regards to the capitalist system. You can grow food, you can build houses, all of the things that are necessary to incorporate a society. You have them present, and I think it starts with, and it's something that I'm actually, you know, we're working on trying to do in Washington, trying to find one community to set up as an example. Because if you can build one, then you can build 2. Yeah, you can build 3.
Do a pilot program.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, I think it starts there. You know what I'm saying? If we can get with some of the redneck homies and be like, hey man, look, you got XYZ land. All right, teach us how to do this. We'll teach you how to do this. We can build this right here in the middle. This is our grocery store / / this. We put everything in it. We secure it. The system that we utilize in order to exchange is our business, whether it be currency, bartering, whatever the case may be. But we create something that exists separate from what's happening over here. Once you do that and you create that model and you show that it works, it's a whole lot easier to go to the next set of people and say, hey, this is how we did that.
That's what he's talking about was exactly what I want to do for Jason in Louisiana. Exactly that. Because, Jason, he's a prepper. Psychotic prepper. Like, I mean, he has all the military gear. He's a survivalist. He knows all of that. But he lost his family. He lost his family, his group that he had made over the course of years, because he started showing solidarity with Palestinians, and because they're also stressed economically and everybody's going through their own thing. Absolutely. I want to give this guy a new family. because I'm like, dude, you're so valuable to this movement. You're a redneck. You're conscious of class consciousness. You are starting to, like, you've become enlightened to the Black liberation and the Palestinian struggle. Like, we got to give you a new family. So besides just the Black Panther Party, if you were to give some universal advice for people out there who, whether they're part of the Black Panther Party or not, how they can follow that model that you're talking about, just things that they can do when it comes to, say, agriculture, because one of the weapons that's been used against black people, because black people, they used to be very agriculturally savvy.
Absolutely.
And one of the weapons that the system did was, no, we're going to push them into cities, into ghettos, and living in concrete jungles as opposed to out in nature where they used to be the kings of their kingdom, you know? So that's one of the things that we got to change, is bringing a black youth who are being squeezed in these ghettos and bringing them out to the countryside and letting them spread their wings the way that they've always done. So how can Rednecks help out with that, possibly? What do you see as like a format that can be used for Rednecks who live out in the country, who are into agriculture, and inner city black youth, for example?
There was a thing they used to do in New York. I don't know if they still do it. It's called Fresh Air Camp. And what they would do is they would take 15 kids from the ghetto and take them up to a farm for the summer. And let them learn how to grow stuff, let them learn how to take care of animals, let them learn how to, you know what I'm saying, all of the stuff that goes into running a farm, they learned it. So,
was it effective?
It was effective in them having the knowledge, but the problem is you have to return them back to the ghetto at the end of the summer. So all of that stuff you learned, you come back to the ghetto, there's nowhere to grow anything. You know what I'm saying? So none of that matters now. The only animals are pit bulls and Rottweilers and, you know, dogs, cats, all the regular stuff. So that doesn't come into play anymore. So now it's back to the regularly scheduled program already in progress. You probably didn't see a single pig while you was out on the farm, but now you back on your block and they passing by every 15 minutes. So like, once you change a person's ability to think clearly in regards to what they know, you take them out of being able to live in that. So if we could operate those fresh air camps, and at the time, the way that this works is this: you take the kids, you send them to the camp for the summer, but during the summer while those kids are away, you're organizing in the ghetto to get people out of it. You start with maybe getting 2 people in the houses with yards. Now we have 2 houses with 2 yards to start growing stuff. Cool. Does that only get 2 families out of the ghetto? Sure, but it's a start. Then those kids come home, 12 of them go back to the ghetto, but the other 3 live in houses now.
Yeah.
And now they can start putting those things that they learned into practice.
Yeah.
And then they have a place where their friends from the projects can come to their houses to continue to practice those things. We lose those things by not being able to exercise them. It's no different than riding a bike. I would really suck at riding a bike right now. I'm pretty sure after a while I would get it again, but I haven't ridden a bike in probably 20 years.
Yeah.
So at a point you lose it.
Yeah.
If you think about, if you watch the Mike Tyson fight, at a point you lose it. You know what I'm saying? At a point you lose it. And I think the thing that he lost wasn't the skill so much as the killer instinct. You know what I'm saying? But even that instinct is important to what he was trying to do. That instinct of being able to grow things out of the ground to take care of yourself and your people, to care for the animals, so that if you eat meat, you have, you know, healthy meat that you raised yourself to eat. All of those things matter. But again, you go for the summer, you learn all these things and you think it's really cool, but then you go right back to hell. And it's like, oh man.
So a possible, like, not solution, but a possible, like, way to take this even further is start doing like land collectives, where we start buying some just undeveloped land.
Yes.
And having it as a project, a place where inner city youth can come and work on their own project. So it's outside of, like, they actually own something, own a piece of it, you know? Yes. And it's quite easy to, I mean, there is cheap land out there that's not that expensive. So,
the beautiful thing about Washington really is that there's so much of it. You know what I'm saying? It's where there's houses, they're usually fairly close together, but there are large spaces where there's nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just a matter of finding out who owns it, who controls it, finding out how much it costs, and then maybe even buying it in sections if you have to.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And beginning to work it that way. But it rains so much up there, it's usually good for growing stuff most of the year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like that gives us an opportunity to create that kind of thing. But you have to have a collective with the understanding that, hey, it always comes back to the money. It always comes back to the money in America. So you have to have a collective of people willing to make the sacrifice that it's going to take to get that land.
Yeah.
You know, and not think about what is taken out of their pocket.
Yeah.
And that's hard when you're suffering already.
Yeah.
But if you get enough people, it's definitely possible. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I want to change gears to the pro-Palestinian movement.
Okay.
Right now, what's happened in Palestine has woken up the world in many ways. And it's starting to look like a revolution. We don't know what it is yet. It's kind of like one of those amorphous things where it's starting to be there and it's very organic.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you see this going if it's done right?
If it's done right, I see Palestine recapturing their sovereignty. I think that if people understood that Israel wouldn't have a fighting chance without the United States, they will understand just how deeply we're really entrenched in this thing.
Yeah.
And if there was a larger voice, I mean, there's already a lot of people. I think the pro-Palestinian movement, I've watched it grow over the months that this has been going on, and I'm like, wow, that's really dope. But I think that it's going to take more than what people are currently doing. And this is
yeah. Well, let's talk about that. I mean, look. All advice is welcome. No matter how much of a critique it is, it's everything is needed.
Good. Well, I just think that there's a limit to protesting. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
If there's a protest, but the question after the protest isn't what's next, the protest was kind of pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Because generally at a protest, you're marching, screaming, yelling, preaching to people who already agree with you. And that's cool, you know what I'm saying, if you're kind of trying to mobilize, the masses. But the question is, after you've done the protest, after you finish with the rally, what's the plan?
Mm-hmm.
What's the actual plan of action to affect how America is subsidizing Israel?
Mm-hmm.
You can't protest America out of spending their money. They're going to do it anyway. The only way that you can do it is to attack how they make the money.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do that, maybe reconsider some things. But I mean,
yeah.
let me be clear though. I understand that everybody's not built for a certain degree of action, and I get that.
Yep.
Some people protesting is as far as it can go with them. That's just the way they're built.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, you let those people protest, and you even protest with them. And over time, hopefully, if they see enough of the mechanisms that occur after or in between these rallies, the actual things that are taking place,
like the BDS and the boycott, divestment, and sanction.
Right.
Yeah.
So they see that and they, oh, well, maybe I could do that, But the only way you shake people out of that comfort zone is you have to show them there's more to it than this.
And there's another problem. Is that traditionally these movements are usually led, especially in the United States, by leftists, right? Left is good. It's based on compassion. However, there's some shortcomings of the left, and that is cross-sectionality. The ick feeling that they do in reaching out to, say, rednecks, or people who are conservative, or people who are on the right.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I do notice in this movement is that because a lot of the leftists who are involved in this, they're new to it. They're young. They're like 35, 30, 20s. So they're not from the Black Panther generation.
Oh, no.
So that's where the Black Panthers have so much wisdom to offer them. And what would you say to leftists who are hesitant about reaching out to the right and reaching out to conservatives?
You would be surprised to find out how much you have in common with these people.
Mm-hmm.
You would be surprised to find out. I talk to all kind of people all the time. So it's just kind of like, I think people mistake it to think they have to agree on everything.
Yeah.
And that's where the problems lie. We do coalition work with organizations that we don't have complete alignment with, but we can agree on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do this.
Yeah.
If we can agree on feeding the houseless community, then let's go do it.
Yeah.
If we can agree on, teaching a self-defense kids to class the kids and women, let's do that. Mm-hmm. The only way that you're going to actually find any success is you're going to have to reach out to people who aren't exactly like you.
How can they do that? Like, how should they approach it? Like, because the Black Panthers did it and they did it effectively. What was their magic sauce that they were able to pull off this miracle?
Find that common thing and let that be what you lead with. And only through that can you overcome the differences, because the differences are apparent.
Yeah.
You don't have to dig for those. You know why you're different from this person already. Yeah. the more important things are what you have in common and what you can work together to solve. If you can work together, it just simply gives you greater numbers.
Yeah.
And if there are people on the right who agree with what we're doing on the left, and they can speak to their other, people on the right and explain, hey, we might be doing this wrong. Mm-hmm. What they're saying makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Unless you have that, then you're basically screaming into a void.
Yeah.
More or less. And it's going to continue to be a right versus left thing. And I'm like, I don't understand how it could be a right versus left. You ever seen a bird? It's got a right wing and a left wing, but it's still one bird.
Yeah.
If we're trying to fly anywhere, both wings are going to have to work together.
Absolutely. Okay, so your father.
Yeah.
Tell me about him.
My father was cool, man. He's he's old now, man. But he's great. He's great. He joined the Panthers really young. He was like 16 when he joined. So.
What year? What time frame we're talking about? 68. So he was in the heart of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was he moved around a couple different chapters just because he's young. He's on the move. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's trying to see things.
Yeah.
So he moved around a bit. Was in a couple different chapters, but by the time he started to grow into manhood, was when COINTELPRO really started pressing on the party. This is right after, at 69 was a terrible year. 68, 69 was terrible, as far as the oppression that started raining down on the party. So
does he have some stark stories to tell you, some really notable stories about that oppression?
The best thing about it, I guess, in his eyes, was it woke him up to exactly how serious it was. Because at a point you join something like that and you kind of think it's cool. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're young. You think it's cool and you think it's a hip thing to do. And I want to get out here. But when you start to really see how the system is trying to eradicate this entire thing, and then you start to really understand why that's happening. So one of the things he's always impressed upon me is if you're going to do this, you just have to know that at some point they're coming. Mm-hmm. And you just got to be ready. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it was that, at a point it was kind of moving around to avoid getting arrested. And so then it was kind of like everything started crashing down. The East Coast Panther chapter started shutting down. He didn't want to move to the West Coast, so it was just kind of like, okay.
What caused it to shut down? We know that the oppression was part of it, but what was the thing that actually crushed people to disassemble?
Well, it was basically the split between Eldridge Cleaver and Huey Newton that did it, more or less. And the East Coast Panthers more so rallied behind Eldridge, and the West Coast Panthers more so rallied behind Huey. The people who were in the middle of the country kind of just had to pick a side, So that's why when the East Coast chapter started shutting down, and the whole New York chapter got expelled, and then Philly fell apart, and a lot of stuff on the East Coast started happening. And he would say, "Hey, anybody that's loyal to me, come back to Oakland."
What was the main disagreement between Eldridge and Huey on that caused that division?
Eldridge, man, fuck it, I'm gonna just tell the truth. So I was getting ready to try to find a way to diplomatically say it, but fuck all that.
No, by the way, if there's anything you want me to edit out later, I can.
Oh no, I don't need to do edits. So I say everything I say, I mean it. So Eldridge Cleaver was essentially what they like to call a murder mouth. He liked to talk people into doing things that he wasn't willing to do himself. Even the night that little Bobby Hutton got killed, all of them had guns. And the word has been said by many different people, the only person who never took a shot was Eldridge Cleaver. But you let all of them out for this thing. Then the entire crew ends up getting arrested. You get arrested, Bobby Hutton gets murdered. But you're pushing, we got the guns, we should use them. We got the guns, we should use them. And he was like, dog, we're not ready for that. We're not ready for that. We have a ragtag army at best. We're outgunned, out-trained, and everything else. How do you think we're going to win? And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. When you're talking about the Black Panther Party, at its height had 5,500 members. How are 5,500 people with guns going to take over a country?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
So it started with that.
And plus, that's not the goal anyways, to take over the country. It's to create solidarity so that we all join in and we all take over overthrow the system that's oppressing us.
And therein lies the problem. Because Che Guevara says very clearly, until certain conditions exist amongst the people, revolution will not be a possibility. Because they have to be able to support it. If they don't support it, it's too easy to vilify the revolutionary. You can easily turn a revolutionary into the villain in the news if the people don't know why the revolutionary is doing what he's doing. If you educated the community properly, they can never vilify a revolutionary because the people are gonna be like, nope, that's not it. I just saw him yesterday. I just talked to him last week, and I know exactly why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And that's how you create a network of safety for revolutionaries, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't say too much, but yeah.
Right. Okay, so back to your father. All right, the pro-Palestinian movement right now, there were certain tools that COINTELPRO used. Obviously, those tools have, a lot of them been used up. They're old news.
Oh, yeah.
There's new tools now at their disposal. We got social media. We got TikTok. We have, because Fox News and CNN, the news doesn't work anymore because everybody knows that they lie, especially after COVID, especially after a lot of situations.
Yes.
Okay, so now they got, now the new weapon of the empire is algorithms. What they do is they will, like the AI is so sophisticated that if you're, say, a white person, a white boy, 20 years old in Nebraska, and you like trucks, well, they're gonna feed you trucks, guns, and racist shit, and paranoid shit about how you're gonna get all kinds of shit. You're gonna be targeted, and the algorithm is that smart. So that creates a new challenge, especially for the pro-Palestinian movement. They're trying to do the same thing. They're trying to divide the pro-Palestinian movement. For example, after the election, they used the election to divide, where Kamala Harris, there was this, black influencers, for example, were paid, obviously, to come out and say, you know what, we're done with the Palestinians, they voted for Donald Trump, or they let Donald Trump win, so we're going back to Starbucks. All these different, so it's obviously planted. The problem is, when people who are watching it don't understand these new tactics. So when they think in their mind, they're like, oh, well, wait, so I guess us black people are not supporting Palestinians anymore? Is that what we're doing? It's like a bandwagon type of effect. And then Palestinians are like, oh, wait, so black people are, I mean, it's this, so what advice would you say, based on what COINTELPRO did in the past, that you have for this movement to prevent that from happening? The tactics and the similarities, the parallels you see in these divisive tactics.
Well, the beauty of it is this. I hate to even use that term, but the beauty of it is this. They actually created a weapon that you can also use. You know what I'm saying? So I think it comes down to how savvy you are with utilizing that technology to your advantage. Just making a post and posting it isn't enough. Making a post and adding a picture or a video isn't enough. You might need to put some money behind it and boost it, or whatever the case may be, to reach who you're trying to reach, because you're going to be fighting against the algorithm that they already have in place for these people. So in order to get that there, it's going to cost you a little bit, and you're going to have to be really savvy with how you make your message known. But the greater part of that is addressing people in person where you see them. Because as powerful as social media is, it will never be more powerful than in-person interaction. Ever. So take advantage of the conversations you have with people. We have to stop being scared to talk to each other. That's how you counteract social media. If I see you out, when I walk past somebody, you know how many times I see people walk past each other and never even say hi, hello, how you doing? You know, I hope you have a good day, whatever. Those small things begin to change people. So then you will see that same thing on social media and say, that's ridiculous. My neighbor's cool as fuck. You know what I'm saying? So like,
I was about to say, like, when they go high tech, we go low tech.
Absolutely.
Because one thing that the algorithm cannot protect is data, like physical interaction. You see somebody, the algorithm can't stop you from doing that.
Exactly.
The methods of COINTELPRO, what lessons are learned from that the pro-Palestinian movement can use, those lessons that are vital from what happened, based on what your father experienced and everything he saw happen, the divisive tactics, the subversion, the liberalism, giving you a false choice, you know, what do they need to keep their eye out for?
Well, I think any narrative that's created that's assigned to a particular person or organization, but you didn't hear them say it, it's maybe just in print, or even if you see them say it. But this is the problem with AI. The problem with AI is you can create something that looks like somebody said something. Or it sounds like somebody said something, but that person never said those words. you know? So I think it comes down to the biggest thing that I think drew the lines in the sand in the 60s and the 70s with COINTELPRO with the party was there were letters and things of that nature that were sent out as communications, and those communications were never cleared up. So somebody from New York sends a letter anonymously to Huey P. Newton and says, oh, you suck, and the Central Committee's trash, and, you know, we hope you die, blah, blah, blah. Well, Huey don't have time to go to New York to find out who wrote it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm trying not to die in Oakland. So, like, that in and of itself gives us an advantage. We have the advantage now of if I get a letter that says, hey, bro just said that you're, you know, da-da-da-da, and he hopes a sniper takes your head off, I can call you immediately and say, hey, hold up. Hey, man, I just got a letter that said, that you said, because it's not a long distance call anymore. I can call you on your cell phone. Back in the day, you had to worry about incurring costs for long distance calls. Even being capable of making a long distance call, you know, so those type of things you have to be careful about. Anything that's assigned to a particular person or organization, get to the root of it. Find out if that's actually what was said and who actually said it, and then maybe you can get a why. You know, that clarity that's given to us now, that opportunity to overcome that barrier that we have now is invaluable. And again, back to what we said previously. Our in-person interactions are our only way to combat all of that, because they're never going to attack. COINTELPRO's never going to attack while we're standing face to face. Yeah, it's not going to be that. Yeah, it's going to be covert things that occur. Be mindful of people who, whenever you talk to them, it's always something to the opposite of what you believe that they're telling you, and they drop it real slick, like, and then they leave. And then the next time you see them, it's the same thing, and then they leave. What they're doing is they're planting subliminal messages in your brain, and then they're leaving you to think about it. Yeah. So it's gonna your determination and your dedication to what you say you committed to is going to be imperative to you overcoming that. I have people in my ear all the time telling me, "Oh man, you know that stuff y'all doing. I mean, it's cool, but oh man, y'all gonna get killed. I'm gonna die one day anyway. I might as well die for something that matters." So I mean, you know, that's really what it comes down to.
So many friends of mine in this movement have been disheartened because their family members or just people around them have saying, you know what, like, why do you care so much? Like, it is what it is, you know? There'll always be war in the Middle East. They'll always hate each other. What are you gonna do, you know? But like, what do you, and the other part is people feel isolated. This movement is, the thing about this, I guess the miracle of this movement is that it's so spread out. You literally have families split up. You have in households. It's kind of like COVID, except even more intense, where you got people randomly, like say in Russia, in France, who are like, I see what's happening to the Palestinians, this is fucked up. And then their family member will be like, oh yeah, but you can't do anything about it. And then that causes a rift. So people are just scattered throughout the world. They feel isolated. They care about the Palestinians. They see what's happening. They're awakening. There's this, like, almost like a spiritual, weird, invisible connection with all these people, including myself, by the way. I feel isolated all the time. Right. Because I have nobody in my immediate physical sphere that really cares. So it's like, what do you say to those people who feel isolated?
I would say be steadfast in what you believe. Everybody's not going to agree with you, even your family. But you, at a point, there are sacrifices that have to be made for the greater good, and sometimes that includes people that you love. Unfortunately, I think one of the greatest things that could come out of, I mean, you have to be realistic about what your goals are. Be realistic not only about what your goals are, but what your actual reach is. I told somebody once, a young man was very passionate. You know, he was very excited. He was going to a pro-Palestinian rally, and man, we're gonna go march and da-da-da-da. I said, okay, cool. But then what? Well, I don't know. You know, we're just gonna go do that. I said, listen, here's my thing. Don't fool yourself into thinking that this protest is gonna free Palestine. Don't fool yourself into thinking that. You can march in America. You can march in the streets in America all you want. Not gonna change anything. But what it is going to do, what you have to do is you have to recognize what it actually is, use it for that, and then find other things to build on top of it. What rallies and protests really are a war cry. Yeah, we're trying to rally the troops. Not only are we trying to rally the troops, but hopefully the people who are around who may not agree with us will hear something and be educated by it enough to attend the next one. Yeah, and continue to ride this train with us. Sometimes being resolute in what you believe enough brings the people who tried to tell you can't do anything back around to the table. Yeah. Because once they see, oh, you're really dedicated to this. I got family members who think I'm insane, who thought I was insane, you know, and then as things have progressed and we, you know, programming taken off, and Political education classes. They've come to a couple of them, and it's like, man, like y'all are serious. I'm like, yeah, you think we out here playing? And that has definitely changed the relationship between myself and them. And we actually talk now, and they have a greater understanding of what it is that we're trying to accomplish.
And that can happen for the people who are in this pro-Palestinian movement who feel isolated. That's good hope. That's good hope to give them, because that's the number one comment I get on my social media is like, I just feel so alone.
But they have to make it you got to make it relate. Take Palestine and make what's happening in Palestine relate to what's happened to the natives and black people in America.
Yeah.
Anybody that's been here long enough, especially if they're your older relatives, they will understand exactly what you mean. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. But you have to. It's no different than teaching political education to people about how to deal with the system. I can't talk to you about the president and the House of Representatives and the Senate. You never see those people. Yeah. Ever. I can tell you what they do, but you never have any contact with them. But if I talk to you about the mayor and city council and the police, you see them every day. Yeah. So now we're getting more realistic. It's getting more boots on the ground for you. So now you feel like you can reach out and touch the people who are ruining your life.
Yeah. How important do you see the relationship? How the importance of the solidarity of black people and the Palestinians? How important is it? How? Why?
Because I think that when you I think that anytime you have a group of people who are in a place that was their homeland, that was encroached upon by another group of people. So I mean, in a way, that kind of leans more to the natives than the black people. But when you talk about the genocidal methods that are being used against Palestinians, that relates quite closer to what has happened to black people in America. The natives too, though. Let me not make that light. So I think if you can draw that correlation between the two, it's important that all victims of genocide, no matter where it was at, form that bond. I think, and I'm talking about Jews that suffered in the Holocaust, all of that. Yeah. They all need to be connected, because the only way that you can combat genocide, because let's be honest about something. Genocide doesn't stop until you stop it. Until you actively make it cease, it's never going to stop. This thing with Israel and Palestine has been going on longer than we've been alive. And it's going to continue to go on unless they actively stop it. Yeah. The fight that Palestine is putting up is absolutely commendable.
How important is it to liberation movements all across the world, including black people, including Native Americans?
Because here's the thing. Victory breeds victory. Victory breeds victory. Success breeds success. If we see Palestine succeed, then people in this country who have been disenfranchised for the longest will begin to say, well, if they did it, maybe we can do it too. Yeah. The problem is we haven't seen a successful revolution in a really long time. Yeah. So when you start seeing people uprising and then they getting crushed, it makes it a whole lot harder for you to stand up. Yeah. I tell them all the time, the problem that we're facing as a party is that every time they crush a movement, they don't only crush the movement, they crush the movement and then they crush everything around it. So now nobody believes that this can succeed. So now you're starting back from ground zero every time you start over. Well, maybe ground one. It might not be zero, but you're really close to it, because people no longer believe that this is possible. Well, Cuba did it. Yeah, but that was way back then. And that was in Cuba. Haiti did, yeah, but that was Haiti. Like, dog, you don't understand. It can happen anywhere. Yeah. But I think the biggest problem we have here in regards to that, and Palestine doesn't have this problem, and I'm glad they don't, because they are actively aware that, hey, we got to fight. Yep. There are enough people here that are comfortable. As my brother Addo likes to say, they are comfortable in their graves. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they don't want to get up.
Until the time's too late. And then you're winding up in a prison camp because the elites think that, oh, well, we're going to have to put you in a camp to get your labor now because... Yeah, that's the reason all those military bases that got shut down didn't get torn down. Yeah. We ain't going to get into that, but yeah. Yeah, for real. Okay, this was great, man. Back to your father. What's something that he taught you that always resonated with you? The most valuable things he taught you in his experience in the Black Panthers? The inspiration.
Man, I tell him all the time, one of the best things my father ever taught me is there's always a way. There's always a way. It may not always be the way you want. It may not be the way you envision, but there's always a way. And the way is usually through the power of the people. You can't do it alone. Yeah. And that in and of itself changed the way I looked at people. I used to look at people as chess pieces. Okay, I'm on the board, I'm playing this game. I just need to move the pieces where I need them to be for me to win. it was never about us winning. It was about me winning. As he began to educate me more into the necessity of solidarity, I started realizing that my mentality towards even my friends started changing. Like I literally want you to win. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever I got to do to help you do that, I'll do it. That was big for me. He taught me study all the time. I'm a pretty cool dude. People don't know I'm a low key nerd. I read all the time. You know what I'm saying? I have my headphone in anything. I'm listening to music. Sometimes I'm listening to a book instead. But he taught me that was absolutely imperative, because he was like, if you don't study, the world is going to change and you won't know how to change with it. More importantly, you won't have the historical context to put this change into to understand how to explain it to somebody else. Yeah. And that's going to be necessary. And the third most important thing was use your voice. You know, don't be afraid to speak. You can never do that. Because if you don't say it, who's going to do it? Yeah. Don't wait for somebody else to say it. You do it. So, yeah.
Was there ever a time that your dad told you about where he faced, say, like a racist redneck at one point, and he was able to change their heart?
Nah, he didn't, but I did. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So we have a program we call Panther Pickup. We clean up local parks and neighborhoods on the weekends. You know, we invite the community to come out and help. So we were out doing that. We were just wrapping up, going back to the cars. It was myself and two other comrades, and I got in the car and I'm sitting there and I'm like, why are they not in the car yet? I look over and they're arguing with this guy across the street, white guy. His face is red. He's just going off. And I don't know what's going on. So I get out of the car and I'm like, yeah, what's going on? And he was like, and my comrade was like, tell him what you just told me. And he was like, fuck Black Panthers. And I was like, but why? Like, I don't understand. And that's when I knew that my growth was real, because my initial reactions to that in the past would have been, well, let's get them up there, if that's how you feel. Yeah. But instead, I was like, wait, this might be an opportunity to teach somebody something, you know? So I was like, well, hold on, man. Just hold on 1 second. Tell me why you feel that way. So when he started breaking it down, he said, I don't fuck with new Black Panthers. I said, well, first of all, we're not the new Black Panther Party. We're just the Black Panther Party. Like the real Black Panther Party. He was like, oh, well, and he said he has a picture in his house of his daughter sitting on John Muhammad's lap. For those of y'all who don't know, John Muhammad's from Washington. So I was like, so you allowing a DC sniper who was in the Nation of Islam and new Black Panther Party to affect how you feel about Black Panthers? Let me explain something to you. This is what we stand for. I ran the 10-point platform down to him. I gave it to him. Dog, we not here for that. As a matter of fact, we here for you too. Here's my card. If there's anything that happens over here that you don't feel comfortable calling the police about, you call me. He was like, man, dude, man, I'm so sorry, man. I didn't know. He shook my hand. I'm so sorry, man. And to this day, I still go by his house. Hey, man, D, everything all right, bro? Yeah, everything's good. Bunch of things, man. Hey, good to see you. Even in prison, there was an Aryan Brotherhood dude. He was fairly new to the Aryan Brotherhood, so he wasn't a stone cold racist. You know what I'm saying? I think he kind of joined them for protection, but he did adopt their ideals. You know what I'm saying? Right. But I saved his butt from getting beat up one day, and then, you know, I would slyly slide him little things. Hey, check this book out. Hey, you should check this out, man.
Friendship.
Yeah,
just
you know
friendship. Man.
And before I knew it, he ain't sitting with them no more. He's sitting off on the table by himself. They giving him the side eye, so I go sit with him. Hey, man, how you doing? Everything okay? Yeah, man, I think they're going to get me. I was like, they're going to have to get me too then. It's cool. And then I told my homeboys, hey, yo, look, he kicked him. Like, we got to look out for him. And he was like, oh, we got him. Don't worry about it. And when he saw that, I still talk to him to this day. So, like, man, it's amazing how far a little bit of kindness goes, but also understanding that a lot of times people's racism and they hate that they have inside of their heart only comes from a place of not knowing. People feel what they don't understand. People say it all the time. If you don't understand Black people, you don't understand why we act the way we act, you don't understand where we come from or why we may have ended up in whatever predicament we're in, you may be afraid to the point that you could hate somebody. Yeah. You know? I think a lot of hate is built out of fear. Yeah. So that's why I don't hate nobody. Yeah. I hate oppression. I don't hate no person. Yeah. I hate oppression. I don't care who's doing it. I don't care what you look like. I don't care where you're from. None of that. I don't understand. But
I see so many parallels, man. Especially when I hear about the pro-Palestinians that are marching. They'll be protesting for Palestine. And because of Fox News and conservative media or whatever fucking algorithm they're on, they'll be like, oh, well, they're hating America. They want death to America. And then they get into it. And I'm thinking to myself, and there's often fights and scuffles and yelling at each other, but what you just said could be something that they really need to hear, the audience, because, you know, you got some American redneck out there who's like yelling at a pro-Palestinian. It's like, listen, why are you yelling at me? Right? Like, why? Like, we're not trying to say death to Americans or Americans. We're just like, look, we got patriots over in Palestine. They're fighting for their country. They're fighting for their women and children from being raped by the Israelis. That's what we're doing. You do the same.
Absolutely.
And then make that friendship. And I think that's very valuable right now. Yeah. People in this movement need to start making friends with people who are not in the movement and maybe don't know shit about it. It's like, let's drop our guns. Let's just talk. You know, that's great.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, I'm very. I say this. I'm very pro gun because I have to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would rather there with no guns, but if I gotta have it, then I gotta have it. But I'd rather there with no guns at all, because if there were no guns, a lot of this shit would change. Because a lot of people too scared to do anything without it. So a lot of this stuff would not be happening.
As long as evil people have guns, good people need to have guns
too. Absolutely.
Yeah, because or else it's not like the bad people are going to put down their guns as soon as good people put down their guns. It doesn't work that way. Yeah.
To use America's phrase against them, the people worldwide need an army of one too. Yeah. Absolutely.
Hey, but this is a great interview. I think this is plenty of stuff, man. And so, I mean, free Palestine.
Absolutely.
All power to the people.
All power to the people, indeed. Free Palestine.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, off the pigs. You know what I'm talking about?
And no technical issues. That's good.
That's slow, gonna go wherever the spirit goes. Gonna doll and piddle and talk and cuss. Ain't no boss gonna make a fuss. When the Lord comes back, I'm gonna drive real slow. Well, every high place gonna be brought low. Every high place gonna be brought low. When kingdom comes, I want for nothing. It's just a long table, a mess of beans and honey buns. The trucks are small, the trains are late. The men pick up their dinner plates, saying nobody sees it, the debts are paid. The guns are all for shooting clays. The guns are all for shooting clays. The guns are all for shooting clays. When the Lord comes back, the rich get scared and gotta act mean to be treated fair. All the living's ours and dying too. Our bodies return as heirlooms. Could already come a time or two, and they killed him like they tend to do. So I'm praying for the mighty to fall, else ain't no use in prayer at all. When the Lord comes back, I'll do my best to share my okra and cigarettes, break every law. I can't respect, leave some tall grass for all the critters rest. When the Lord comes back, I'll do my best to share my okra and cigarettes, to share my okra and cigarettes.